Hi everyone, and welcome to my video for day 3 of the 2015 Aintree Festival. Just a couple of hours removed from day 2. Wasn't the best of days today. The only winner I think I got on the board was Don Cossack. Some of the others run okay, like Vita de Rock run okay, and some of the big price ones finished just outside the places, but there was a lot of disappointments for me in there today. The likes of Glingerburn, don't know what went wrong, no sort of race whatsoever. And the likes of that, but you know, today is, or tomorrow is another day, as they say, so fingers crossed we can get back on the board. And it starts as it has been the last few days at 1:30 with the 4.5 mile novice chase. Very interesting race this, as it brings some Cheltenham form together here. Aston is very interesting for Paul Nicholls. He was an easy winner at Sandown last time, though this is a huge class rise, but he's been improving each run. So Paul Nicholls has been banging in some real big improvers this week, so a 10-1 Aston could run a really big race. Ballybowley's an interesting one for me, because he's 2 for 2 at the course. He's won a hurdle here, he's also won a bumper here. He likes a good ground, has been in half decent form, but this is a huge class rise. Days of Heaven is right towards the top of the market for Nicky Henderson. He's been improving, but the one thing I don't like with this horse is, quite often when he's expected to do something good, he hasn't, and I've looked back and twice he's been beaten at odds on in his career, and this looks like quite a hot race on paper. He could easily win, but at likely odds of around 4-1, I'm happy to go against Days of Heaven here, just in case he has one of his off days. Three Musketeers is an interesting horse for the Skeltons. He's 2 from 2 on hurdles, but both of them were on soft, and in his only start on good ground was in a point-to-point, and he was beaten by 10 lengths, so my gut feeling is he probably won't have the class or the ground for him to feature here. Now, an interesting horse which I'm going to put in the 3 is called Seedling for Warren Greatrix. He was not a gamble, I'd say, but in the Supreme Novice he was 33s in the mornings into around 14s, 16s, and he unseated in that race, so you never know what he was going to do, but clearly he was thought of to do something. He's generally progressive before this, but whether he has the class or not to go with this, I don't know, but I could see him running a really big race at likely, well, high double-figure odds. But the two I'm going to focus on are, if you've got a line through each other at Cheltenham, and that is Nichols Canyon and Parlour Games. Parlour Games came second that day and Nichols Canyon came third. Nichols Canyon ran a really good race. He stays well, the ground is okay, but Parlour Games finished a place ahead of him that day, and I've watched the race back and I think Parlour Games will get the better of him again. The reason for that is not only did he finish ahead of Nichols Canyon behind Windsor Park, but he was held up off one of the slowest paces of the festival. Looking at the time of that race, it was so slow. So to be that much held up and then come through to get second off, it quickened it actually. It was a cracking ride on Windsor Park after the second to last. To come second, you actually did a lot better than you thought. Now, the problem we've got here is it's not a massive field, so there is a chance there might be no pace again. And the other concern, I suppose you'd say, is a lot of the winners from Aintree this week have been going from the front. But I'm going to take a chance on Parlour Games here, because he does seem even better again on flatter tracks and on the decent ground. And there's a couple of big outsiders in this, so I'm hoping one of them is going to go ploughing off and give something for Parlour Games to aim at. Tricky race to pick through, but 1, 2, 3 I'm happy to go with Parlour Games, Nichols Canyon, and third in Seedling. The 2 mile novice chasing the 205, you could make a case for literally every single horse here. Ardnaresque has had one win from one start, but Paul Nicholls could be anything. Though reading his blog and comments today, I think the chances are they just run out of options towards the end of the season, so they're giving a punt at this. Could run at a big price, but I think there's too much class in this race. Paul Nicholls' other horse is Solar Impulse. He's got some place form this year behind the likes of Monitor and Joss's Hill and Three Kingdoms, but I think the one bit there, Monitor fell today over the national fences, which, as I said yesterday, I'm not surprised. French horses really don't go for the national fences, and Joss's Hill disappointed the other day, so I suppose you could start to pick some holes in this one. He's fresh, but I just wonder, I just don't know, I just think something else is going to improve past Solar Impulse here. He's a good yardstick, and I've mentioned him in my videos before as a yardstick, but I don't know if he is that top class. God's Own is likely to be, according to the tissue price here, 6-4 favourites, and you can understand why, because he was second behind Undersue in the Arkle. But I think, once again, looking at the form, Joss's Hill and to some degree Vibrato Balta have let the form of that down a little bit. And I think the race was just, and I think the reason it's been let down is because Undersue was so good and he just destroyed them. And I think the places in behind, okay, Clarkham went and won, but then Joss's Hill has let it down, obviously for Brosy Valtat, they're all in the same race. So it's hard to weigh up the form, and quite often when he is expected to win, he doesn't. So at 6-4, I think there could be something improving towards the end of the season here. So I think he'll go close, but I'm going to pick one to go ahead of him. Sizing Granite's interesting. Because he's only had one poor chase start, and that was after he'd only had a 14-day gap. After this, he's won the first start, won the two subsequent. He could be anything, but I just don't know, again, how good the form that he's got is. Traffic Fluid for the Moors is very interesting. He's improved on every chase start, and he's best on good ground. He looks like he stays well. He's won over 2.5 mile in the past. He's fresh, and Traffic Fluid, I think he's a really good each-way bet here, and he'll go very close. But the horse I'm coming on the side of is for the Evans yard, or the Evan Williams yard, sorry, and that is Court Minstrel. He was 5th in the Arkle, but made a really bad mistake. But generally, if you look back on his form as well, he's best on a flat track and good ground, which he's got here. He also likes left-handed tracks. Where he's disappointed in the past has been on right-handed track. Not that Cheltenham was a right-handed track, and I just think in the Arkle he came 5th. He made that mistake. The race wasn't run to suit, and I just think Aintree as a course is going to suit him more. It's a really, really good race, but the 1, 2, 3 and go for here is Court Minstrel from Godzone and Traffic Fluid. In the 250, that's the highlight race, I suppose you'd say, other than the Grand National at Aintree, and that is the 3 mile Liverpool Hurdle, which, if you look through the form, is effectively World Hurdle Part 2. Cole Hardin, the World Hurdle winner's in there, and he's run well at the course before. The difference is, I think because he was a big price, he was kind of left alone at Cheltenham to just do his own thing on the front and off you go, and he also outstayed him up the hill. I think two things here. One, I don't think he's going to get left alone again. I don't think anyone's going to make the mistake of doing that necessarily. And two, I just think with Liverpool, it's more of a pace or speed track, and Cheltenham's more of a stayers track. So something with a turn of foot could get him. He's going to go close, and as a World Hurdle winner should. But I'm going to be taking him on today. Whisper is interesting because he's won the what was now the Dunbar Hurdle. And got good form around here. He was 5th in the World Hurdle. He comes to life at this time of year, but I just think again someone's going to be found a bit better than him. In Temple 2 was 6th in the World Hurdle. This is the World Hurdle form coming again. But if you look at his start before that at Cheltenham, when he was fresh, when he was meant to be best, then in the World Hurdle, I'm still to be truly convinced he stays this full 3 miles. As an outsider, Henryville's interesting because he was a really good fast finishing 4th off top race in the per temps final, and while this is a huge step up in trip, if a couple of these horses are what they call over the hill by now, or you've had enough for the season, Henryville, and he's as big as 33 to 1, that could be a really interesting each way bet. But we stick with the class, and I think the class horse of this race is another winner of the Aintree Hurdle in the past, and that is Paul Nicholls' Zarkanda, 3rd in the World Hurdle, and we'll never know what happens, but no horse was going better than him at the bottom of the hill at Cheltenham when he virtually fell. How Noel Bailey stayed in the saddle is staggering, really. He then rallied and actually got 3rd, running on towards the end. He's proven on these flatter tracks. I think he's slightly better on these flatter tracks. He's won in the past at the likes of Wincanton, Aintree, and I think everything is set up for a good run here. He'll be delivered late. Cole Hardin's going to give him the pace to aim at. And while they're both around about the same price, Cole Hardin's just heading Zarkanda at the moment in the market, it seems. I think Zarkanda will turn the form on him today. It's a fascinating race, but 1, 2, 3 and going for is Zarkanda from Cole Hardin and Whisper. The 3 mile 1 handicap at the 325 is interesting because usually this is a massive field, but this year it's not. The top weight is Wonderful Charm for Paul Nicholls. He's taken a marked drop in class. He's been going into the top races, but with that weight, I'm still not that convinced he stays 3 mile 1. He might go and show me up tomorrow with his dropping class and the easier ground, but at 5 to 1, that's likely enough odds for a top weight in a competitive race for me. Bywise is the interesting horse here. The way he ran on at Festival in the 2.5 miles chase suggests that he really needs this trip, and he's on a cracking mark, which a lot of horses are because of the presence of Wonderful Charm and what he's done in the past. He's a tough horse, he takes his racing well, and it'll take a good one, I think, to beat Bywise. Edgardo Sol would have a chance. He's won here, the Red Rum Chase here before, but if it's on a going day, this horse, you flip a coin, it could run well, it could run terrible, you don't know what you're going to get. if you fancy living on the wild side, give him a punt tomorrow, but you could easily see him pulling up after a circuit because he just doesn't want to know. That's just the character he is. He's also changed stables now. He's now with Emma Lavelle when he used to be with Paul Nichols. Vino Griego is interesting. He came second in this last year, but since has shown absolutely nothing, to the point that he's virtually on the same mark as when he went a close second. Again, if you want to take a really big shout, if he bounces back, then he could have a great chance here, Vino Griego, and he is proven to be a spring horse, so he could go very close at 10 to 1. I think that's quite a big price. Duke Olika won it this last year, but he carries nearly a stone more now, and his form has been shocking since then. He was quietly fancied for the cross country at Cheltenham and came 8th or 9th, I think it was, and it will take a big effort for him to suddenly return to form and win this off this weight. It's a fascinating race, but 1, 2, 3, I think I'm going to go with Bywise to beat Vino Griego, and I'm going to put Edgardo Sol in it because I think at that price, if he's on a going day, that could prove to be a big race. The next race is obviously the big one, which is the Grand National. Bizarrely, in the way I bet on things, it's a race I probably do the least money on because while people think it's a Grand National, I just see it as a huge 39 horse handicap race, which is never a particularly attractive betting feat for me. But I'm going to go over some of the protagonists. Rocky Creek came 5th in this last year, but the difference was he was suffering from ringworm all year, and this was, and by Paul Nichols in missing, it was an afterthought. He's actually £2 lower this year than what he was last year in the weights, and he's been in much better form this year. Won easily last time out after the weights were published, so there's no penalty, and has been missed Cheltenham specifically to go for this. I think there's a lot to take from that, and Rocky Creek currently around 11 to 1. I don't think he'll be that tomorrow. I think he could even end up challenging the favourite. The favourite is likely to be the John Joe Neal, AP McCoy, McManus combo of Shut the Front Door. He's a former Irish national winner who's been targeted at this race. You're never going to get the right price for this purely because of the Tony McCoy factor. I'm not going to be backing him. Because a concern I've got is looking at it, he's accordion bred. Now the accordion bred horses are dynamite over shorter distances. It's the likes of Viking, Flagship Uberalis. These have all come out of accordion and they were proper genuine 2.5 milers. So he won the Irish National over 3 mile too, but this is 4.5 miles. I'm not saying he won't, but there's enough to suggest that they look like 6, 7 to 1 is plenty short enough, to be honest with you. I would want more 16, 20 to 1 to be more interested in Shut the Front Door. I'm not backing it, but it's one of those, if mine are out of it, I'll be shouting for it if AP comes coming to the last, because I think it'll be an absolute fitting way for the champ to bow out with a win in the Grand National. And if it does, it'll be one of those stories that you'll hear about for years. Balthazar King interests me. He came second in this last year. He's best fresh, so even last year he won the cross-country chase at Cheltenham and then came here, so he possibly wasn't at his best because he is best fresh. This year he's come out, he won back in November, he won the cross-country course again, I think it was at Cheltenham, and Philip Hobbs just said we're missing the cross-country at Cheltenham where he probably would have won purely to come here. They're coming here fresh, he's got the ground, it's been targeted, and Balthazar King could go very, very close. The Druid's Nephew is a very interesting one. The whole thing about his win at Cheltenham was the way he travelled, jumped well and stayed on up the hill. He's on a really, really nice mark, and if he takes to the fences, and with a lot of these, are they going to stay 4.5 miles? No one really knows. That's what makes it so intriguing, really. But the way he jumps and travels, if you can get into a rhythm, the Druid's Nephew's on a great mark and could go close. Cause of Causes won the 4 miler well at the festival this year and generally jumps well, but that would be a really big double to win the 4 miler and then come to the Grand National meeting and win this, but he could give you a good spin. Sol is in form for the Pipe Yard, but he's gone over these fences twice, and I've read a comment from last year that he didn't seem in love with the fences. So yeah, he's in a lot better form, so maybe he's a reformed horse, but I'd like the odds of around 16 to 1. He could run you a decent race, but I don't like it when the trainer says that they don't like the fences in the past. Oscar Time is a 2-time winner over these national fences. He's a 2-time, he's been over these fences, and that included a place in the Grand National 2 years ago. He won, I think it was the Beachy Chase before Christmas, but he's a 14-year-old now, so for a 14-year-old to win the Grand National, that'll be some performance, that. If you're looking for something at a monstrous price, Caught by Surprise is interesting. He jumps well, he stays, and he's fresh, and he's another one, if he takes to these fences, he could run a serious race, and he races up there as well, which is what I like in the National. Has he got the class for this? I don't know. He's been in a lot less races than this, but that means he's on a really attractive mark. You've got to mention the reigning champ, which is Pinot de Rey, who won well last year. However, the form he's in this year going into Aintree is not a patch on last year, and bear in mind the only horse to retain is Red Run. I just don't think Pinot de Rey, I think it could have been a blip last year. I don't think he's going to go in this time. Another big price, so I'm actually going to put in my 3, is a horse called Saint R. He absolutely loved the fences in the Beecher Chase, and the interesting thing that I noticed about this race when I watched it back, he got there coming towards the last. Oscar Time quickened away from him, but he was gaining all the way to the line. It's as if like even the 3.5 mile wasn't far enough, and he did love the fences that day. Yes, he's had a fall over it in the past, which is always a bit of a concern, but again, if he gets into a rhythm, he's got a chance. He's a different type of performer as well. He'll be anchored probably towards the back and start coming through later, which has its own problems. We could have trouble in running, but his odds are around 33 to 1. That's a pretty big price for me there. As always, it's a fascinating race, not one to go steaming into, but my 1, 2, 3 I'm going to give it is Rocky Creek from Balthazar King, and I'm happy to put Saint R in there as well for a bit of each way value. From there it goes to the conditional jockeys race, which is always an interesting one, because conditional jockeys, anything can happen, and that's the part that you never really know. You're backing the jockey as much as you are anything else. Ruacana is in good form and fresh, but he's not gone great at the course in the past, and I really do suspect that he's better on soft ground. The Game Changer is interesting because he was really unlucky in running when trying to land a bit of a festival gamble, and he stayed on really well. He's from the Elliott Yard, who's been firing in winners left, right and centre all week. And what my logic is here is that if he's improved, and it's a little bit, it's a bit of a flatter track, and he's got a decent jockey on it this time, he could be a really good piece of value. Baltimore Rock is interesting because he was only beaten 7 lengths last year on this going in a grade 2 behind Joss's Hill, who does seem a better hurdler than he is a chaser. He's only had 2 races this year and travelled well to a degree in both, and he wouldn't need to find more under a decent conditional to suddenly feature here in a lesser standard race. Astra de la Coeur is interesting. He was an easy winner on his latest after being outclassed in the race before, so he could beat anything again. But the horse I'm siding with here is an interesting one, and that is called Box Office. Is Fred Winter 6 is by far the best form in this race, because the Nichols horses that finished in the first 4 that day, All Yours was 1 and there was another one, actually came first and I think it was 3rd or 4th in the race on Thursday. The interesting thing with Box Office, he emptied between the second to last and last coming up the hill at Cheltenham, which is no disgrace in that because a lot of horses do. I think the flatter track should suit here. I think Maurice Linehan's taken the ride on it, and I think that's my idea of the winner. It's a tough race with these conditional jockeys, but 1, 2, 3 I'm looking at is Box Office from the Game Changer and Baltimore Rock. The Meuse Bumper to end the festival is always a very, very hard race. Sea Pride jumps out because Sir Mark Prescott here is known for the flats, has got a bumper horse, and this horse has improved with each bumper run. He needs to do more here, but bearing in mind, he was running this probably when he was getting his flat string sorted, so he's probably bringing this horse along at the same time, so it wouldn't surprise me if this horse suddenly found some improvements to go and win this. On the Rolls Reversal one, quite often you see National Hunt horses going on the flat and winning, so why not the other way around? Sunshine Corner was a very easy winner on his only start, but this is a monstrous step up in class needed here, but you've got to mention it because of the easiness of his win. He's about 33 to 1, could run you a really big race. But now I'm going to come to the main 3 that I want to focus on, and one of them is an absolute massive price, and that is called Verona Opera. He was beaten on the first start in a junior bumper. Now the interesting with these junior bumpers, they're only like 1 mile 4 to 1 mile 6, and she was staying on all the way, and it just, if you had another couple of furlongs, easily would have won. The interesting one, it stayed on second, but the rest were really strung out in behind. She then stepped up to this 2 mile trip and won easily, and the great part about it is the 2nd and 3rd on that day have both gone and won since. I'm looking at the price now and it's 33 to 1. Now the Crawfords have taken some bumper horses to Aintree in the past and won, and I think that is an absolute massive price. I think there's got to be something a bit more classy than it, but in terms of a good run for your money, Verona Opera has got a great chance. The two I'm going to focus on now are the obvious ones, and the two more Irish horses. Babylon Day Mott is obviously the Mullins-Walsh combination. He travelled so well and won well at Sandown the latest, and if she repeats that effort, you'd have to say that she's got a chance. That form also types in with Lifeboat Mona, who ran well in behind and is expected to like the better ground, but I'm struggling to see how Lifeboat Mona will turn that around with Babylon Day Mott. The wild card in here is called Whistle Dixie. Again, it's the Gordon Elliott trained one. Nina Carberry's on board. This was backed as if defeat was out of the question in that Mears bumper at Sandown. I think it was 5-1 into 9-4, and after 4 or 5 furlongs it clipped heels and unseated Brian Cooper. So we never know what it would have gone and done. Before that, it was unbeaten and won relatively unchallenged. And from what I'm hearing, the vibes are pretty good for this horse. Nina knows her way around these bumpers as well, especially the jig and stand one, so she knows where she'll stand with this one, and I think Whistle Dixie's the way to go. I pretty much think here it's going to be very, very tough, but the 1, 2, 3 I'm looking at here is Whistle Dixie from Verona Opera and Babylon Day Mott. I think it will be a really fascinating Mears bumper. Well, good luck with day 3. Fingers crossed we get some more winners. As always, if you have anything that you fancy, maybe in the National yourself or anything on the day, post it. If you have any questions, you want to message me direct, that's absolutely fine. I hope you've enjoyed these 3 days worth of videos, and yeah, I don't know when my next ones will be now, so let us know if there's anything else you want them for, but good luck, and yeah, fingers crossed for a good National Day. Take care, bye bye.